A lot of people talk about the books that changed their lives, and they're usually some fantastic piece of literature, some important novel, something that really connect with them on a spiritual level. For me, it was this book right here, which is a paperback that they sell at gift shops, and it's called How to Quit Your Job and Move to Key West. Even though I don't drink a lot of frozen margaritas, I think this particular episode calls for a frozen margarita. It's one that I developed kind of on the cuff when I was doing a comparison of frozen margaritas, and it's my own recipe. We called it the Gregarita when I made that episode. It depended on a particular ingredient that I called lime simple, which was made by making simple syrup and like stewing it with the peels. I didn't really want to have to do that just for this episode. It's kind of a pain in my ass. But I think I came up with a way to do the exact same thing without needing to make the special simple. So let's give that a try. And even if it's not 100% bang on, it's gonna be a great frozen margarita. To do this drink, I'm gonna need to zest some limes, and I'm gonna zest them into my blender. So I've never done this before, so I'm kind of just guessing. I'm gonna zest 4 limes, which is probably the number of limes I'm gonna need to get for juice for this drink. So we're gonna double the volume because with a blender, that's kind of what you have to do. If I'm not wrong, this should release all of the same oils that we would have gotten from doing this on the stove. Okay, now I'm going to proceed with my lime juice. Said as a normal person speaks. I'm gonna need 2 ounces of lime juice because we're doubling this. And the reason I'm doubling it isn't because I want to drink a double. Although I might. It's because I need to have there be enough volume in this in order for it to have enough to blend. You know, it's got to do the blender job. If you're noticing that there's a bottle of super juice back there, you're not wrong. It's just that that's been kind of sitting there for a few days and I need to dump it. Also, I go back and forth. I can't decide if I like super juice better or regular fruit juice. I know a lot of people like the super juice better than fresh lime juice. I don't know. I think it's good enough for sure. I don't know if I like it better. Now I need 4 ounces of my Reposado tequila. I'm using La Gritona, just like I did last time I made this. I like this tequila. This is a fine tequila. I think you can use any Reposado you want. I think you could probably use a Blanco, I don't know. You do you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't use an añejo though. I think an añejo would actually impart flavors that you don't want here. Cuban crimes of passion that are añejo and old-fashioned are just the kind of thing that they want up in America. Here you don't probably want to use an añejo. I need 2 ounces of Cointreau. It's a double. That's why we need 2 instead of 1. And I need 2 ounces of simple syrup. Normally when I'm making like a shaken margarita, I don't sweeten it, or I'll sweeten it very lightly, or I'll just use a sweeter orange liqueur. With a frozen drink, you kind of need to sweeten things a little bit. I can't really wrap my head around the science of it right now. I used to know this, and maybe if it was later, I would be able to articulate this better. It's early, but at the moment, just suffice to say, like, frozen things need sweetness to taste good. To make it taste gooder. More good. So this is where we're getting into experimental territory, something I've never tried before. I'm gonna dry blend. I'm gonna dry blend this to pulverize and agitate that zest and get it to spit out all of its oils. And then we're going to double strain this before blending with ice to get rid of what's left of that pulp, okay? I don't know if it's gonna work too great, but we're gonna give it a shot. If it doesn't work too great, it'll still work great enough. Getting a little Dutch with my angles today. I'm getting a little Dutch on the angles now. That's gonna do it. There's actually like smoke coming out from up top here. I don't know what that's about. Tequila vapor? I've never seen that before, so. Oh man, where's my, shit. Double strainers in another room. My princess is in another castle. This is Future Greg from the end of the episode, and yes, I do manage to finish the blender. Here to let you know that this episode is brought to you by you, the patrons on my Patreon. Look, if you love this show, and I really truly hope you do, if you're having a good time, just take a minute, check it out. Go over to my Patreon. It's a link in the pin comment below or up here in the corner. You can cut out the middleman. You can help me get off the teat of advertising and YouTube and keep making this show and do weirder things with it if you go over to Patreon. And there's things over there. There are episodes of How to Drink Without ads on them. There's exclusive behind the scenes content. There is a private Discord server which has a wonderful community. We are always trying to figure out new ways to add new things to the Patreon. I really believe that if you sign up you will not be disappointed. I really hope you won't, and if you are, I am deeply sorry. But this episode is brought to you by my patrons on Patreon. I hope I have earned your trust and continued support, which is making it possible for me to make this show. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You have changed my life. I don't think I'm ever gonna forget it. And now back to the show. All right, and now double strain that, or double strain, fine strain it is the right term here. And look, all this pulp is coming out, or a lot of it is, and frankly, I can live with the rest. Toss this. Just throw the whole thing in the garbage. The one thing I'm gonna note is that there is a lot of pulp still in here. Do I really wanna get that out? You know, we could do this again. Try and like wash it one more time. Yeah, that got rid of a lot more. I mean, I think you could kind of keep doing that and keep removing this stuff, but it's gonna be fine for me. Back in there goes. Now we add ice. Let's crack our ice in first. Just makes the blender's job a little easier and more even and faster. And that's gonna be ready to blend in just 1 second. The only thing I wanna do is I'm gonna rim my glass. You take your lime. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, 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 boop. Blend, baby, blend. Disco Inferno. But there's booze in the blender, and soon it will render that frozen concoction that helps me hang on. And there we have the way I like to make a frozen margarita, I think. Yes, it is. That lime zest, man. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Happy times. That really wakes up the drink in such a wonderful way. It adds a much greater depth to the lime flavor. It doesn't only bring tart. Oh, it's so good. It's so much beyond just being a little tart. I'm gonna devour this drink. It's so good. Frozen cold salt, bright, fresh, and limey, with notes of tequila and orange. It's like one of the best frozen margaritas I've ever had. This is the way to do it. The only frozen margarita I like more so far is Dave Arnold's, which has, I'm trying to go off memory now, chartreuse, I think, and mezcal in it. And it's a genius device. It's a genius drink. It's a wonder of modern science, but it's also a little non-standard, but it is a lovely drink. Well, now that I've got a appropriate drink in my hand, I can explain to you how this goofy book saved my life. It's 2016. My wife and I are living in a one-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side, living out our New York fantasy, spending every penny to do it, but what a wonderful 3 years we had there. I absolutely would go back to the Upper West Side tomorrow if I could afford the square footage that I need. For us, it was paradise. Since then, we've said there's really only a couple of places that we felt like we're home. One of which is Key West, the other is the Upper West Side, and I guess this place now that we own. Although home, great to be a homeowner. Feels a little bit more like an albatross hanging around my neck than a home. But anyway, we're living on the Upper West Side. My wife is a librarian who commutes to New Jersey, and I am, which is weird, right? But that's okay. And I'm working as an editor. I work at a small production company in a position that we call Permalance. I'll break that down in a minute. But this small production company that was down in Soho that did sports content. Not like sports content that you would be seeing very likely, but a lot of sports content. There was probably a 3 or 4 year period where pretty much every piece of content that Tough Mudder put out was cut by me, maybe 50% of that content, because there was a couple of other guys working on that. I cut some sports documentaries that were four-walled onto Fox Sports. Four-walled means that the production company bought the time slot and then put their own ads on it. It wasn't what we would call editorial content. It was paid programming. It's just the way this operated. Cut a lot of stuff for Red Bull too. Now, when you're Permalance, you're still a freelancer, which means you have none of the protections of being an employee, and they're not withholding taxes or Social Security or any of that. And they could literally just say, hey, tomorrow I don't need you anymore. Usually when you're a full-time employee, you have some protections against that. And of course you can collect unemployment, not if you're freelancing. You're self-employed, right? And the deal that you make when you're a freelance artist who goes Permalance is, hey, I will hire you to be here every day, handshake, but I'm gonna get a discount on your freelance rate because I'm guaranteeing work. Now, at some point in your career, that's gonna be a really sweet deal. At some other point in your career, you're gonna say, why would I let you tie up all of my time at a discount? No. You pay more for that. That's crazy because of the lost opportunity cost. There's a transitional point where that will happen for you if you're doing editing or graphic design, I think, at some point in your career. So I've been working there for 3 years, and for about 9 months, I was having a huge crisis because we were pregnant. We were having our first daughter and just barely scraping by enough money to pay the rent, which is astronomical. I think we were paying close to $3,000 a month for that 1-bedroom apartment. Felt like my fingers were on a ledge when I'm thinking about the math and the finances on all this stuff, and also the fact that we're gonna have another person living in our 1-bedroom apartment, which I later solved because we ended up staying there another year or two. My wife and I moved into the living room and we gave our daughter our bedroom. But I've been permalancing and my daughter is born, my life changes, and she's 12 weeks old, and I'm about to go back to work because it's funny. I was gonna tell my boss that I need about a month off or so, or a few weeks off at least, you know, paternity leave. My wife was gonna take 6 months off because she has a real employee and she actually got protections and was in a union and stuff like that. But before I had a chance to tell my boss that I was gonna take that time off, my boss told me I'm not gonna need you for a month. So right there was like a real shot across the bow. It was like, oh shit, this could stop tomorrow. So back to work, looking at the numbers that I'm making as a permalancer. I forget what it was I was making. To be perfectly honest, I do forget what it was. It might have been $43 an hour. A lot of money, not enough. Because we're gonna have to start daycare, and I told you I was spending probably close to $3,000 a month in rent. Daycare is that again. So we were just basically renting another 1-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side. So I'm panicking. I am panicking. And I am so freaked out, holding on like white-knuckled, man, that I buy this book for like 12 bucks or whatever it was on Amazon, just to kind of like put my brain into Key West space. Key West is probably how we wound up with a daughter. Put my head back into Key West space and really genuinely consider moving. Like, what am I doing here? Why am I killing myself to live on the Upper West Side? I found out that I can't afford to move to Key West, which I should have known anyway. And I still can't. Please help me move to Key West. But this book is filled with stories of people basically making radical changes to their life. I don't think that that was really the intent of the book. I think the intent of the book was to sell something to people in the airport on the way home. But if you read it, it's accounts of all these people who moved to Key West and a lot of, you know, information and funny anecdotes and stuff like that and history about the island. And you're like, man, you could just like pick up your shit and change your life. You could quit your job and redefine everything. And I'll never forget, I was running the numbers, realizing that like in a month and a half, I will not be able to afford rent if I keep going to this job. If I keep going to this job, I'm gonna be out of money in a month and a half. And I'm like fucking panicking. And I was cat sitting for another editor that I used to work with. I was in his apartment cat sitting. And I called another editor, actually my friend Jesse, who got me into editing. He had moved to LA and was now cutting features and stuff. Called Jesse in LA and I was like, man, I don't know what to do. I'm fucking broke. I think I need to get the hell out of this job and just start freelancing, because as a freelancer, Greg pours himself another drink, you can demand more money for your day, for your hours, than you will as a permalancer. And I was like, I think if I do that, I'll find other opportunities and be able to make more money. And he said, I think that's a great idea. I think you got to do it, but I think you need to have some savings in the bank. And I agreed with him without explaining to him that is fundamentally impossible because I don't have any savings and I am running out of money right now. So my daughter was 12 weeks old and I went and quit my job without any other prospects. At that exact moment, this is so funny to me, unpacking all of this. Woo! Thank you for being my therapist today, Internet. At basically that exact moment, a Facebook message that I had sent a year prior to somebody that I had gone to school with at SVA. She was now a producer at an ad agency called Mustache, which I think is still around. I had reached out to her a year prior saying, hey, I haven't talked in a while. Hope you've been great since SVA. Saw that you were looking for editors. I'm an editor, bada-ba-bing, ba-boom. Reached out and never got word back. Out of the blue, like a year later, she got back to me and said, I think, I'm leaving. I'm not gonna be there anymore. But They might need you. Here's the person you're going to talk to and see if you can get any work from them. And I'm out. I'm not going to be here. I was like, oh, okay, fine, thank you. And I got my first new freelance gig after leaving Permalancing at Mustache. And it was fucking great.
I have a chocolate pickle.
It was fucking great. I made much more, I made the money I was going to make Permalancing in a fraction of the time, and then was able to make more money with the rest of my time. When you're freelancing and you're non-union, and I'm only speaking from the people I knew in the non-union world in which I worked, I knew a lot of people who had like, what's your day? How many days a month do you need to book at your rate to pay your bills? And what's your number beyond that that you get to put in the bank so that when you're not booked, you can still pay your bills, right? A lot of people I knew were like, well, 8 days, I need to book a month, you know, I need to book 12 days a month. And I don't want you to think that like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Like you only have to work 8 or 12 days a month. You're panicking the rest of those hunting for work, okay? It's not fun. And remember, I couldn't even afford to live as a permalancer. As a freelancer, my day number was 21. If I booked 21 days a month, I could pay my rent without shuffling credit cards around. So I was hustling. There were days I worked 2 gigs. I'd be double booked. I'd work one job, go home, edit for Moonlight for another client, work one job. There was like a Nike thing I did where I had to sleep over in the middle of Times Square. I don't even think we ended up using any of the work I did. I think that they had some plan. They were gonna layer shots. And I was like, you guys fucked up. You used 2 different lenses for these 2 different time frames. I cannot align these shots, you know. Certainly not in the time frame you're giving me to do it. Some flame compositor wizard could probably pull this off, but like you hired me. We didn't end up using any of my work. They still have to pay you though. So for the next like 2.5 years, 3 years really, because we didn't, yeah. She was almost 3 when we moved out of the city. I was freelancing, hunting for work. And where did I work? I worked at Mustache, I worked at BBDO, I worked at Imaginary Forces with Meredith, my other friend from college, another place called MKTG, I worked at Mike.com, I did some work for Vox, just thinking. And it probably you've never seen anything I worked on unless you saw a video that Tough Mudder posted, or I did cut 5 of the masterclass trailers actually. I did Wolfgang Puck, I did Helen Mirren, I did I might have done a few others. Those are the ones that are coming to my mind at the moment. And there may be some other stuff you saw of mine too. You know, post-production in a major market, and I don't know how things are changing now with AI, you can make a living doing stuff that nobody will ever see. You can kind of do that. That's okay. So yeah, I was freelancing, double freelancing when I could, and making How to Drink, and just burning the candle at 3 ends, I guess. I don't know. You know what's really crazy? I feel lazy. I'm realizing I might have a problem. I often think, God damn it, while I'm lying in bed. You know, if I was a real go-getter, I'd get out of bed right now and go back to work. I don't think that's healthy. Anyway, I hope there's an episode in there somewhere. I'm gonna have to find it. I recommend you buy this book. I'm gonna put a link in the pinned comment up here in the corner. Christopher Schultz and David L. Sohn. Hopefully we can move some of your product here. It's just a silly little thing. It's just a silly little thing, and maybe it'll change your life like it changed mine, because I am 99% sure that if I hadn't read this book about all of these people picking up their shit and quitting their job and reinventing themselves, I never would have had the balls to quit my Permalance sure thing gig when my daughter was 12 days old and tell my in-laws that I was quitting my job. By the way, I have no prospects. I think this book gave me the power to do that. I only just realized that, by the way. I only just connected those dots a couple days ago. So buy the book and I guess take the ride. And don't move to Key West. The property values are high enough. I'm trying to get in first. After I get down there, you can move. Legit cannot afford to move to Key West. Hopefully in the near future, I can afford to visit. But right now, I can't do that either. Thank you so much. This is How to Drink. I hope you've enjoyed it. I would tell you to like and subscribe, but I don't know if you know this, but if you subscribe, that does not mean that YouTube is going to show you every single one of my videos. It doesn't. It just is a suggestion to YouTube that you like my show. So what I should tell you is there is a new episode of How to Drink every single week. I don't always release on the same day, but check in from time to time because I promise you I'm not going anywhere. The episodes keep coming. And I say that because I get comments sometimes where like, man, where have you been? I thought you quit. And really, it's just YouTube hasn't been telling you that I'm still around. I'm still around. See you very soon on the next episode of How to Drink. Good night and good luck. And quit your job.